We used to pray and ask God to lead us. Maybe we ought to start praying again. You know, and they did put prayer back in legislature and still do it today. You know, they get different ministers to lead it. And but anyway, again, the beliefs that you see with the Boy Scouts. Another thing, the Scouts of their oath, to obey the law. To obey the law. And that gets back to what I was talking about a while ago about obedience and disobedience. But, you know, there's something that George Washington said a long time ago, and don't you forget it. You probably already know it, but I just jotted it down. A democracy, we are a democratic republic. Now, we like to say we are a democracy. You can't say you're a democracy. That's where all the people vote, nobody else. But in a republic, the people tell the legislator, and he votes. We are a democratic republic, you know, and which is a democracy, you know. But a democracy cannot last without religion. Does that make sense to you? We're not a dictatorship. A dictatorship don't need religion. They just shoot you if you don't do right. Put you in jail if you don't do right. You know? But a democracy, everybody's free. We're all free. And the only law that we have, not the only law, but if we're all religious, if we all have a God, and if we all live by the 10 Commandments, you know, our freedom can continue, you know, and that's exactly what we see. It's the same to say we see some of our legislators who are not honest. It's like any business. You got somebody there that's not honest, you know. But our democracy, or I should say freedom, is dependent upon people who have religion, you know. And then another thing, the Scouts on their oath, to help other people at all times. To help other people at all times. Boy, do we need that. Do we need that? And of course, our Constitution is built around man loving his fellow man. Man loving his fellow man. You know, it's like the Bible, you know. And I'll never forget the story I've mentioned. This is how simple it would be for our nation and every nation to have no problems with each other. Robert E. Lee was the president of Washington University over in, is it Lynchburg? It's not Lynchburg, is it? But Lexington, over in Lexington, Virginia. Robert E. Lee, after the war, after his group had been defeated, he became president of Washington University. Now, it's now called what? It's now called Washington Lee. It's a great institution, by the way. A military school, at least it was. And but when he started that school back in the late 60s, he had a young man in school there. It was probably all male back in those days. Probably didn't have 200 students. And he had one young man just kept disobeying. So he called him in his office, and he'll have to kick him out or get him straightened out. But the boy asked him, President Lee, what are our rules here? What are our rules here? And Robert Lee said, son, our rules are one thing, kindness. Be kind. Thought about that? Do you realize what this world would be like if we were just kind? I'm going to be kind to you. You're going to be kind to me. You're going to be kind to your neighbor. You're going to be kind to the foreigners. Foreigners are going to be kind to us, man. And that erase all that war stuff with it. But gosh, man just has a hard time buckling down to it. Then the Scouts have in their oath to help other people at all times. To help other people at all times. Then the Scouts believed in to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. You know. Now we had a kid at Florida State matched that thing perfect. His name was Charlie Ward. Charlie Ward was a quarterback at Florida State. He led us to a national championship, and we only missed another by a missed field goal. You know, that's after before I shot that guy. We used to miss a field goal every year to lose a national championship. That was in Miami. Anyway, Charlie Ward is a real good example of that. You know, I don't know if I wouldn't be surprised. I bet he was a scout. I bet he was a scout. You know what? Because he was all those good things that you look for in a young man. You know, great little athlete. He played quarterback at Florida State, won the Heisman, and then played 12 years in the NBA. Ain't bad, is it? And but he was very honest and clean and very quiet. You talk about leaders. Some leaders are vocal, you know, and some just lead by doing. And that was Charlie. I mean, man, we walked there, got that huddle. It was all about to hear what he had to say, you know. But he was such a good example of keeping ourselves physically strong. Let me see what else I need to mention here. Well, that's again, we talk about kindness. I talked about love. I talked about. That's why I'm so proud to speak for the Boy Scouts, because of what you stand for, you know. And again, we just need more organizations like that and more attendance out of these folks, because our nation right now, we're not filling up our churches like we need to do, you know. And we get these boys to be Boy Scouts, and we get them in a fellowship with Christian athletes, they start going to church. You know, their mama won't make them, daddy maybe not, but they'll go anyway, you know. Of course, I try to get the point across to a lot of kids and their families when I talk to them about parents. Why don't your children go to church? And the parent says, well, you know, I hear this. Well, my son just won't go. My son just won't. I wish he'd go. Oh, I try to get him to go, but he won't go. Well, my response to that is make him. Make him go. I didn't want to go either when I was a kid. Oh, I stayed home every Sunday, played, had a good time. My dad and mama made me go every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, every Wednesday, every time they opened the door. Boy, am I glad. Boy, am I glad. You know, they also made me go to school. And I say that to parents that don't make their children go to church. You do make them go to school, don't you? Oh, yeah, I'll make them go to school. I'd be more interested in eternity than I am at that young degree. You know? But I'm sitting up here wandering around. Y'all ready for me to go home? Y'all put up all y'all put up. Well, let me say this. Congratulations. I met some mighty fine people today and some mighty fine Boy Scouts. You're doing a great job. They help the community. They help the world. You know what? And so let's keep supporting them, you know, and try to get our nation back where it ought to be.